machine.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to a star-studded Monday here on YSN. Welcome to the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yoakley with you alongside Paul Munson and, of course, the legend himself, Mr. Ty Bartell. Gentlemen, how are we?
We're doing good. Thanks, Ty, for showing up.
We thought we were going to have another Munson and Yoakley Power Hour, which is never good for anybody.
Solo Cowboys.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we manage, Paul. I guess that it's not to say it's not good. It's just not ideal, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a ping pong match where you'd rather have a basketball game where you can pass the ball around a little more.
Seems like we've been doing a lot of two square on the Power Hour.
Well, I mean, we've got people out on assignment, so it's one of those things where you just got to deal with it. But this is the week. This is the most wonderful time of the year because baseball and softball, track and field, the other spring sports as well, respectively, are going to be in full swing. So we're excited here to kick back into what we know best, and that is broadcasting and streaming games. And it all starts on Saturday, correct, Paulie?
Yeah, the official date for OHSAA is Saturday. There is a handful of teams that are going to take advantage of that. I mean, because why not? I mean, with the weather out there, that we've normally never been able to start this early. You figure you schedule it, you're just going to chalk it off. But no, looks like we're going to have some games being played on Saturday across the board, boys and girls.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know that there's one game that stands out to me, and I'll fight Richie for this game. It's going to be Salem and Canfield. I'll be there for sure. In one capacity, either just watching or hopefully announcing the game. But if Richie wants it, Richie gets it. He's earned that right. And we'll have I think South Range softball Saturday, right?
Yeah, they're taking on Garrettsville Garfield. And
we'll have updated as we're finalizing our schedules with our announcers, and we'll have you updated on our live page on ysnlive.com/live. So
Fitch also plays Saturday, I believe, versus Niles at home under the lights.
Well, we know who that's going to be.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Talked with Mark Roth when we were out there the other day, and it was just a good conversation getting to talk to him, and everyone seems to be really excited for the season. So
I think you know how I feel about Mark Roth. He's been a supporter since day one here at YSN, and it just continues to flourish, and he's a big reason for it. Austintown Fitch as well. I mean, all of our schools for the most part. We're excited to just get this back underway. It just feels like, we wanted a break, and then we get a break, and it's like, okay, now what do we do? Like, we've been busy for so long during quarantine or during Corona that it's crazy. So we're going to get to these brackets here in just a second because it's been chaos, especially in the Yoakley house. However, it is National Goof Off Day, and with that, I have to ask, who is the biggest goof off at YSN? Only one name comes to mind for me.
Jeff
Betos. So, who is your the biggest goof off in your life up to this point? And do you have a good story? Maybe a story to explain. Paul, you want to start us off?
It's me. I don't think anybody in my family would argue that fact. It's me. I'm the biggest goof off.
What was the moment you realized that you were the goof of the family?
Probably when there was more than me there. Yeah, I mean, Carrie would hands down be like, yeah, he's the goof off. We were joking last night. The four of us were eating dinner, and the girl said something like about trading lives, like if you could trade lives with somebody. Carrie's like, in a heartbeat. She goes, I'd love it. She goes, to get what I want and not really do anything and all that. And I'm like, I'm like, oh, great, thanks, And then, the girls were like, well, what would you do with moms? I'm like, I'd get her fired. Get her fired in a day. It'd be fine. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm hands down the biggest goof.
Okay.
Between the four of us. Yeah.
That's an interesting question. We're gonna come back to that here in a second. Ty, how about you? Who's the biggest goof off that you know?
I don't know. I'm a pretty big goof myself too.
You're a robot.
Yeah, no. My fiance will constantly say
error.
I have a very dry sense of humor with everything too, so I'll just come out and I'll say some stupid stuff. But also another big goof off I know too, and we kind of feed off of each other. My broadcast partner Brandon, we've been friends for well over a decade now, so a long time, and I mean. He's one of those guys that usually can make you laugh, and he usually has a huge sense of humor, and he can make the room laugh. So we kind of feed off of each other when we're together. It's usually a pretty fun time. But yeah, that's definitely one of the bigger goof offs. I definitely know.
I love that. My dad was always the biggest goof growing up. Kind of gave me my sense of humor, and then my uncle Wayne, who he's a Virginian, and he's got this like redneck accent, which everybody, I mean, when people talk to you, the Deej, like that, you just naturally laugh at them. So shout out to the big goofs. All right, Paul, you had an interesting question. Trading lives with people. If there was someone, let's say in the sports world that you could trade lives with, who would it be and why?
Wow. My goodness, that's a pretty good question. I mean, I guess just like off the top of my head, I mean, I respected him as a player, but I was never a big fan of the team. I mean, I guess it'd be between like either Derek Jeter or, I mean, and I did like him when he played, Jordan. Yep. One of those two guys for the fact that like they were like one of the best athletes in their field when they played. And then afterwards, they've gone into like management, and they still are a part of the sport that they love, and they've got a crap ton of money. And the reason I was leaning towards Jeter is like Jeter is like, it's crazy to think about, and we've talked about it briefly before. He's like the squeaky clean. Like you never heard anything about that guy. Like he just did everything right. You didn't hear about him getting tickets or doing anything to women or doing. It was just like he was like. He was
a class act. Yeah, he was a class act.
He was the guy that a manager wished he had 12 of, but I'm not saying that Jordan did bad things, but people gave him shit for the stuff he did with gambling and things like that. But like, I mean, listen, a guy should be allowed to go gamble if he wants to gamble. I mean,
it's legal now.
Yeah, I mean, but I like one of those two guys. I mean, because they were at top of their line in their sport. They got money and respect, and they're still doing what they love doing.
All right, I think I know where this one's going to go, but Ty, go ahead.
You know it. The guy that plays down in Tampa Bay, TB12. Why would you not want to be? I mean, not only do you reap the benefits, you're the GOAT. You get the success. You get the money. But, I mean, you're well respected, too. And, I mean, I understand there's the whole the deflate gate thing and everything. But, I mean, for the most part, though, the whole NFL league respects Tom Brady. And, I mean, I feel like just being Tom Brady, I mean, you look at his wife, look at his freaking money, look at his mansion, look at his accolades. I mean, it's a great accomplishment. Another one though I was looking at too. I mean, I was thinking Jordan or LeBron just because of the money aspect and just because of the accolades that both those players have been able to achieve too. I think just being in that kind of position too is really cool. I would want either the LeBron or MJ position because I would want the money and I would want that position of being able to, pick and choose the charities I want to donate to, pick and choose what I want to do with it. Because I feel like if I was in that position, and I know a lot of us say that because it's 2020 hindsight, whatever, but I'd like to think that if I was in that position, I'd do a lot of good with that money. And I mean, like I do appreciate things that guys like LeBron's done with like the I Promise School, but I would definitely, I feel like, gear myself more towards that and like setting up scholarship funds and helping out local schools and communities and stuff and really just give back to my old hometown.
So setting up write-offs, that's what you want to do?
Yeah, pretty much.
For me, just quickly off the top of my head, because we didn't anticipate this, two people come to mind. Peyton Manning immediately, because he's one of my favorite of all time. Not just how he handles himself on the field, but how he handles himself off it. But the real one that I've kind of been going back and forth on for a while now is Tiger Woods, because not necessarily what he does on the course. I mean, obviously he's one of the best golfers of all time, in my opinion. But how he changed the culture of the game. And, I think that's big to me. If I could change places, I'm going to change places with someone that's in a huge space and changes the entirety of a game of golf. And there's nobody that can deny anything about how Tiger Woods changed the face of golf and changed the culture. First it was like this, you know what I mean? Like, you can't talk at all. And then it turns into more like Happy Gilmore. Halfway through the 90s or whatever that was. So, and into the 2000s especially, because, anytime Tiger putted the ball on the green, some butthole was like, get out the hole! You know what I mean? Like, always somebody, if not more than one. So, I think that's who I would go with. I think I would change places with Tiger Woods, and if that wasn't feasible or possible, then Peyton Manning for sure. So, because I think Peyton Manning is just a stand-up dude. I think he's one of those guys that if you have 5 athletes at the dinner table and I had to pick, those 2 are the first 2 seats to go. And I think that somebody like a Jim Nance would tell some great stories in those situations. So
it's always that question, like somebody says, if you could golf with you and 3 other people, who would you go golfing with? I mean, realistically, all-time athletes and things. I mean, one that pops into my head real quick too, because I just saw an article that they're educating a lot of the players on him a lot right now, and it was Roberto Clemente. They were really talking about like how some of the players don't realize what he did off the field to really affect like his country and everything like that. They said he was just so selfless.
He's a hero.
Yeah. And
there's no way around it.
Somebody like him was great too. But, you talk about Tiger Woods, and the thing with Tiger Woods for me is the more and more he's moving along and kind of getting probably past the days of him playing golf, Tiger Woods to me is becoming Pete Rose. Because on the field, Pete Rose is a no doubt slam dunk Hall of Famer, should be a Hall of Famer. As a player, what he did on the baseball field, Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. As a golfer, Tiger Woods changed the culture of the game, changed the game. It's the off-the-court stuff that he's going to be thought of for the longest time. And for Pete Rose, it's the same. It's what he did as a manager off the field that he's being judged on. And I think whether it's fair or not, I think that's kind of where it's going right now. They're talking about like what he did with, when he was married, and then he went off the rails a little bit, and then he comes back, and then now he gets this car accident. And then so it's just like things off the course, I think are being reflected on him more than what he did right now, at least. And I think the same goes for Pete Rose. Like, I mean, like there should have been.
Sorry, I blame our society's perception on that, though, Paul, because we look up to these athletes as they're supposed to be perfect all the time because they are our heroes. We look up to them as, you know, since we're young, a lot of us as our heroes. So we expect them to be perfect, but I don't think. I mean, yeah, they're making millions of dollars, and I mean, they're doing things that, you know, they're playing a game for, you know, for money, a lot of money. But I mean, these are still human beings that are going to make mistakes too, and I think we lose that in transition sometimes too. And I mean, are they capable of making bigger mistakes than us? Of course, yeah, because they have the money to do it. But I mean, they're still going to make mistakes, and I don't think it's right to let one or two or three or, you know, a few of mistakes that a lot of people, everybody actually makes in their life, define them. And I mean, that was another thing. I mean, not to even bring this up because I know we talked about it a lot last year, but I will, like, the whole thing after Kobe's accident and everything, when they were bringing up that whole allegations and all the cases in 2008, it's like, really, we're going to bring that up? You're going to let that define this man's career after he completely changed his life? And like, you can't let certain things define a human being.
I think that there's a definite disadvantage to being an athlete or being a entertainer or being in the spotlight nowadays, because you are under 24/7 scrutiny because there's cameras everywhere, right? There's cameras on phones. There's cameras. I mean, we have the blink system, you know, everywhere that I'm at. You know, we can see who walks through the doors here. We can see who walks through the doors of my home at every exit and entrance. You know, that's the difference, is the surveillance of superstars nowadays. You know, so you're not going to be able to get away with things that they were able to get away with in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s.
Just
and the 60s.
Society in general. I mean, just think about the three of us. You know, I mean, it goes around here, you know, oldest, middle, youngest, right in the so. But think about what if there would have been cameras when we were teenagers. Like,
well, I'm good.
How much realistic trouble like we would have probably got in for some of the stuff.
Speak for yourself there, Muncie. I was a joy to be around.
They would have had a clear camera of Muntz putting up his fake newspaper and press pass to get into the games and everything. They would have had him in the act doing that.
Yeah. For me, like, I didn't do much. He's getting a call. I'll bet he's pissed off now. I didn't do much in the way of getting in trouble. You know, I didn't do that much. Muntz, well, I'm sure he's been in his fair share. And Ty, you don't seem to be the troublemaker.
But I mean, the interesting thing with athletes too, though, like especially the superstars now, it seems like media, especially, and a lot of the public's perception of athletes, things that we wouldn't consider a big deal, like if you or I did it, is all of a sudden blown out of proportion because a superstar athlete did it, and which is kind of crazy because you're held to a different set of standards.
Well, when you're making
exactly
6 figures or whatever a year or above that, I think that there is a level up of accountability and responsibility that you're going to have. But, you know, the other thing is, like, you look at all this stuff, like the adultery and some of the problems that these superstars have nowadays. I mean, the Deshaun Watson situation is ugly right now. Yeah. It is absolutely disgustingly ugly. And there's a lot of people that did this and didn't have to go through it because, you know, I feel like every time you slip up now, the media sinks their teeth into you because there's nothing other than Corona going on. There's nothing else other than how many shots have been administered in the last 2 months.
Well, what Paul brought up too, I mean, it's you know, there's a give and take relationship with it too. And I mean, I obviously understand your money, and some of these athletes think this money makes them invincible and they're allowed to just go out and do whatever they want. But then what Paul brought up too with the whole Michael Jordan thing, there's also cases like that where it's like, oh, he's gambling. Is he really focusing on his game? You know, the finals are this week. Why did he go out to a casino and stuff like that? Like, I mean, in certain aspects, like, I understand it too. You should hold them to a scrutiny, but I mean, sometimes people get absolutely ridiculous with the type of things that you're just going to you're trying to scrutinize them for anything now at this point.
Well, yeah, people are trying to do their jobs too, right? So, you know, our job is to entertain and inform about local sports and regional and national sports. But obviously, when there's no local sports going on, it becomes a little bit tougher, and you start reaching for things. That's the predicament we're in currently, which is why we're talking about this. But what's interesting about that point, Ty, is that those people, like these beat reporters, when there's no more Michael Jordan or no, like, what do they report on? They've got to dig and sometimes they even keep things in their back pocket to come out later because they know they're going to need something to basically pay the bills. So I'm interested to see how this all kind of shakes out. It's not going to get better. I can tell you that. The media is not going to get better at like laying off of things because, people like us are out there that they, become reporters overnight and they report really, the lines of being professional and being personal are being completely blurred. From a situation of, there's a reason we don't talk about coaches resigning and coaches being fired and players being disciplined at the local high school and level, because they're not really getting paid to do this. This is not a profession for them. Coaches around here especially, they're coaches, but they're also teachers and educators and, a plumber that you're going to see. Like, why are we going to scrutinize these people for being people, because of a win-loss record? And there's a point of contention for me with local media outlets or some that say they're media outlets that cross that line over and over and over and over again.
Because how far do you go to try to get a story? Like, do you bother somebody during dinner? Do you bother somebody during the birth of a child? Do you bother somebody when they're at church? I mean, that's the thing. Like, listen, if you're that engrossed in your like story, send a text. If they don't answer your text, then wait. Maybe they will eventually, but to go and bother them, I mean, and call somebody up during something like that. I mean, they get so many phone calls now. Eventually, they're going to try to pick up, and it's like, all right, I just want to get the hell off the phone with you right now. I'll tell you whatever the hell you want, but like, dude, you're bothering me in the middle of something. Like you said, there's a respect. There's a line that you should wait till something happens. Just because you're the first to get it doesn't mean you're the best, and that's the thing that gets me, about sometimes.
It's that on top of the fact too, and I have a real big problem with this, and being in journalism, I see it a lot more too. It's
whoa, time out. Before you make that point,
yes, Michael,
you have a new shirt.
Don't call me while I'm on the Power Hour.
I do, yeah. Thanks to Mr. Jim Bartell, my pops got me it for birthday, so that's the new Ysn shirt. So
it's red, of course.
Any other color but red.
No, it has to be red. It has to be red.
We got blue, we got white. I mean, don't go
gray.
You look like
only the reds, man. Everyday reds.
Not everybody looks like a marshmallow man, Paul.
That's true.
But anyway, as I was saying too, the media kind of the waters get muddied because opinion starts to leak in when you're reporting the facts, and I think that's kind of the issue what we're seeing, and it's in other media, but I mean in sports media as well too. It comes down to reporters go beyond their line of duty of reporting the facts of what's happening, and then the opinions of them start sneaking in there, and then you're just hearing the opinions of one person instead of deciphering the information and making an opinion yourself. Is where I have issue with it, especially if you're not framing it as an opinion piece. Like, I understand there's shows where you're giving your opinion. This right here is us giving our opinion, but it's known that. But what I'm talking about is the reporters that are reporting it, saying that this is 100% facts, but their opinions are leaking in to those facts.
And that's the trouble with nowadays, because everybody has a soapbox, everybody has a platform, everybody has social media.
Everybody's got a phone.
I say that's my thing, Paulie, and I tell everybody, every young person that's out there that uses social media, you can either use it as a tool or it will use you as a tool. And if you're not using it as a tool, then it's going to be the other way around. I promise you, because everybody goes through that phase where they blog everything that they do, right? Just took the trash out, hashtag, hate my life, hashtag, whatever. So, we get into there's a professionalism that you learn by going to journalism school or going to secondary school, college or university or whatever you do, like a media school. You learn what's the difference between right and wrong. And right now, there is so much overlap between being a professional and not, and, this is my life and this is what I do. And I heard it today, as a matter of fact, but as I was prepping for the show, there's a professional out in Pittsburgh. I'll even say DK on Pittsburgh Sports. I'm a fan. Dejan Kovacevic, or however you pronounce his last name. I'm a fan, and he said, I usually agree with him. I lean towards him most of the time, but he said something that I don't agree with. He said, I can't be a reporter and be a fan of these teams, and I think that's a shame because. Yeah, he says it messes with his seasoning, I guess, of how he reports the team, because he can't give unfiltered views on these athletes and how the game was. We do it all the time, and I guess the difference for us is we report positive stuff. Like, we choose openly to not report the bad stuff because there's enough bad things in the world. Why the hell do we want to put that out there so we can discuss it, right? Like, a coach steps down, a coach resigns, a coach gets fired, all this stuff. Listen, that guy or that gal still has a life to live, and I'd be willing to put 99% of my mortgage on the line, saying that their coaching paycheck does not pay their bills. It just doesn't, So why am I going to ridicule another person for basically? I mean, this is, and I understand they get paid, and some of these coaches get paid a significant amount. But why am I going to ridicule? Why am I going to bring a platform or a sports media outlet to ridicule these people who are basically volunteering their time to help out your child? In some cases, and I'll say it, in some cases, babysit your child, at whatever level. Look at these community ball coaches. They're not getting paid at all. They're basically doing it because nobody else wants to step up. So my biggest thing is we'll never trash somebody. And I always ask the coach, or always end with, I hope we're not bothering you. If we're ever bothering you or crossing the line, please let us know in advance and we will fix it. I had a discussion today with a gentleman who I've been close to for a very long time, one of the coaches of one of our teams on the network. He said, hey, waited for a guy, didn't show up. Boom, I'll fix it. Made a call, made a text, it's fixed. He'll be there this week. So that's the stuff. Being a professional, being someone who can see the good in a bad situation takes more than just pointing to a Deshaun Watson and saying, hey, you have 12 lawsuits against you for being a sexual predator or victim or whatever. He's got, you enter that word there. He can't tell his side without being ridiculed at this point. Like, anything he says is going to be absolutely trashed up and down. Same thing with Roethlisberger years ago. Same thing with XYZ. We're now in a society of finger pointing and blame, and you are guilty until proven innocent instead of the other way around. And that, my friends, sucks.
And when you are proven innocent, it's put on the back page.
Tiger Woods.
Right?
So it's not necessarily innocent in that sense, but he turned the page and he became a better person, a better father, whatever. Not a better golfer. That was the only thing he didn't really get better at. But
yeah, and that's the bad thing is, like, everybody's they're going to take the mistake and blow it up. But then if something happens where that mistake needs to get rectified, it's like, oh, we're just going to bury that because that's not a meaty story. We're just going to like bury it around. And that's the thing that sucks is because these guys, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. Like, Deshaun Watson can't come out right now and say anything at all. I mean, his lawyers are probably telling him, don't say a word to anybody, because no matter what you say, they're going to find something in there to spin it that you're defending what you did, or you're not taking responsibility for your actions, or whatever it is. There's yin and a yang to it. And it's like, this guy's going to have to sit there and just wait it out and see what happens.
This is great. And thank you, Michael Page, for chiming in on this. I wanted to get to this slightly off topic, he says, but how about the OSU basketball player receiving death threats? Shame on people. Listen, and we're going to talk about this in the second half hour of March Madness, but or the basketball tournament, not that other word. But I will say this is if you're out there and you are and I get it that there's a big time gamble going on. A lot of people bet a lot of money, more than Skittles, on this tournament. But if you're giving death threats to college athletes because they didn't perform, I'm going to let you know that they're not the scumbag. You are. Like, it's just pure and simple. Like, you have something wrong with you. There's certainly something that you need to see somebody, or get something fixed, because you're just not right in the head. To threaten anybody over losing a basketball game, not on purpose, is troublesome to me.
You're taking sports way too serious, and I mean that's coming from people who take sports pretty seriously in the area. But you're taking it to a whole new level of serious.
Your dad has a great point. Jim says if you give volunteers enough shit, you no longer have volunteers, and that's very, very true. And that's today's society. Is they're gonna parent A and parent B are gonna give coach A and coach B a ton of gripes because, well, you didn't play my kid, or my kid deserves to be batting third, or my kid's a point guard, or my kid's a quarterback, my kid is the setter. Right. Listen, if you know better, then here's, imagine a clipboard in my hand. Here it is, sign up. And then you can make all the decisions you want, and then everybody else can criticize. And that's the biggest problem right now. Paul, you're living it right now. I mean, you're an assistant baseball coach who's been doing this a very long time, and there's people that give you a lot of grief, and you can put your name where Paul Munson's name is. Paul, from that standpoint, how many times do you have to bite your cheek as hard as you can to not say what you really mean?
Every day. Realistically, every day, because you have practices, and then you have scrimmages, and then you have games, and that's what you have your practice and your scrimmages and games to put the best kids on the field to do good for the program, because that ultimately is what we as coaches are hired to do. We're not hired to groom these kids to be pro athletes. We're not hired to groom these kids to be the best second baseman they can be. And I know people don't want to hear that, but ultimately our job is to win games. Even at the high school level, our job is to win games. Like, they don't hire us to say, well, we hope you guys go 0-16, but really put a good effort in there.
And that's a shame too, because you're supposed to be molding men and women to the next level.
So like, you are there to win games, and yes, at the same time, like, help these kids out. But I mean, my job isn't to like help this kid like become a man. Like that's not my kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, they should have that at home. I can help them be a better person when they're around me and things. But like, when you're not putting kids in the lineup, or you're doing these different things, here comes mom or dad. Like, they catch you after games in the parking lot. They send emails to you. They text message you. And it's like, but okay, like I'd like to go home and eat dinner, or I'd like to like go spend time with my family now. And it's time for that to happen. And that line is just blurred, because they want to scream and yell at you. But then all of a sudden it's like you said, well, hey, listen, we can use an extra coach. Would you like to come do it? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Don't bother me in my time, but I'm going to like bother you in your time. And it's like,
it's the same as when people criticize our announcers, criticize us, me. Like, for a while, I took it very personally. I took it very, very personally. It was, okay, if you think you can do better, then you come out and you do this, and you start your own company. But you realize that you're not the one they really need to be focusing in on. You are just kind of one of those, accent pieces of their anger. The real anger is the person, not the coach. It's really the kid, or it's really the situation. It's not the coach, because typically, and I say this with all due respect, typically the coach makes the best judgment for a team. A lot of the times, right? The majority of the times, I would say the coach makes the best judgment, or the best, tries to make the best outcome for the team. Not specifically the player, but the team. Because he's got to worry about 13 kids, and you're worried about one. Yeah. You're worried about your kid or your kids on that team. So this is an interesting comment as we shift gears. That's why referees are getting harder to find as well.
I agree with that 100%.
But I don't. And I think that's interesting, Paul, is referees have the ability not only to get paid more than coaches, but also they can say no to games. Like if you get tired of it in the middle of a season and you're burned out, you don't have to pick up games anymore. You can say, or if Team A is playing Team B and Team B razzed you last time, you can say, no, I don't want to do that game because I don't want to take, but it's the money factor, right? And there's some people that I would suggest that have an authority complex, and I'm not saying all, because I love referees, I love umpires, I love officials, but some people have an authority complex, and that's why they do it. And then they're going to tell you, oh, I don't get paid enough to do this. I've seen some of those paychecks. Yeah, it's not bad money.
And I agree with you to that because, again, we talk about what kids are watching. You know, kids are watching these pro athletes do X, Y, and Z, so they want to mimic it. I 100% agree. Even some older umpires or referees, they see these guys in the pros doing that too, because these guys in the pros think the game's about them sometimes, and it's not. So they have the rabbit ears, and some guy might be walking off the field. Now, again, should that guy be saying stuff? No, there should be some professionalism there too. Listen, you have a job, but like when they turn around and, you know, unfortunately last year when there was no fans, you could hear a lot more of what these players were saying to these guys, and they hear it and all of a sudden they jump all over them. So now if you're in a game and you're doing something and, you know, you get a kid, I mean, we've had scrimmages over the last week or so, and I've seen some kids on both sides, our side and some other teams, like, oh, that wasn't a strike. Come on, geez, oh man. And it's like, wait a second. No, this guy has a job to do. He's doing a job. In his opinion, that was a strike. You may not have liked it, but you know what? You get another at bat. You go do it. You don't sit there and bark and gripe at the kid. And that's something that, like, listen, I'm on both sides of that. I just umpired a game yesterday. Was there a couple people that might not have liked my strike zone? Well, it was what it was, and you dealt with it, and you got hits, and you scored runs. Or you struck out, either one. But, like, I've been on a coaching side of that, too, and went, oh, that sucks. But, you know, that's what their job is to do. And I think umpires now and referees see these guys taking charge of the game. And you know these umpires' names and stuff at the pro level because, oh, you know that Angel Hernandez's strike zone is this big and he doesn't care, or it's this big. And you know these guys because they kind of want – these guys are making millions of dollars. I'm making tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands sometimes, some of those referees and umpires. And they like, well, I want to have my name across my chest too. And now local guys even see that sometimes, and it's like, you know, come on, man. Like you're not part. You are part of the game, but you shouldn't be a part of the game. That's the bad thing.
No, I will give credit where credit's due. Hang on, Ty. I'll give credit where credit's due. Little league umpires, we found this out last year, do not get paid. So when you're a little league, like official little league, like the districts and the region, all that stuff, those are volunteer. And I tip
my cap.
Little League
World Series guys. Little League World Series guys don't get paid.
I tip my cap to that because you are in a bad situation. And you're doing it for the love of the game. You're doing it for the love of the kids that are the next level of the game. And
it's for their. I don't want to say like they do take pride in it. It's a little prestige too. You're going to get paid during the regular season, but if your crew gets picked to do that district or that regional or going and doing Little League World Series at Williamsport, like that's a feather in your cap, man. That's
always
something you can't take away from you, and that's why they do it, because they, like you said, they love it so much and they want to be proud of that, and they should be proud of that. If you're one of those guys that gets picked for that, absolutely.
Ty, go ahead.
I mean, this is just kind of rewinding a little bit too, but I mean, I kind of wanted to touch on it because I got a chance to see a lot of these basketball and football programs this season, and I wanted to say too, as far as like the coaches are concerned, a lot of these parents think, like when it comes to playing time with their kids or where their kids should be starting or how many minutes they should be getting, a lot of parents think it's political at the end of the day. But I can tell you, I saw way more coaches who had either a son or daughter on their basketball team that didn't start than the ones that did. And the ones that did rightfully started because they were talented. They were one of the 5 talented players on the team, and they deserved to start at the end. So for parents thinking that these coaches, or at least all these coaches are making it political, a good majority of them aren't. And I mean, I understand there might be special cases where that might be the case. I understand. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but for the most part, a coach is going to be there. They're going to give the team the best chance to win, and they're going to put the best players in at the best position. And I mean, even if it's their son or daughter, because I've seen plenty of coaches' sons and daughters come off the bench or not even get any playing time. So I mean, I don't think it's right to really trash on a coach like that, to say that, they're not doing their job or it's all political, when I don't think in 90% of the cases it's not.
No, I would say that there's definitely a difference, but in the last 15, 20 years of how coaches are treated, number one, and how coaches have to treat their kids, their players. I'll give you a perfect example is when I was growing up, the Class B League was cutthroat. I mean, there was a young man, one of my good friends, went to Boardman. His dad was actually a coach in the Class B League, and he wasn't as good as the guy that was on his team. He was a second baseman, was not as good as the starting second baseman, so he traded his son to another team and said, listen, you either get better or you don't start for me. And there was no way that this young man was going to do it. And he said, okay. And he said, every time we played my dad's team, I wanted to beat him like you wouldn't believe. Never did, but it was a situation where, can you imagine that today? That would cause a divorce. That would cause such ridicule of that coach because he doesn't keep his own kid on that team. But yet, on the other side of that, if that kid plays now over that other, the more talented, per se kid,
yep,
he's going to take heat for that because, you play your kid over this kid and da-da-da-da-da. Like, we are, it's
especially
so bad
if it's clear cut.
Yeah, it's so bad right now. It's so bad. And you're talking about a player that played at the next level. His kid wasn't bad by any means. He was a super athlete. Played at the next level. Went to Westminster and played baseball. The other kid went and played D1. There's definitely a difference, but on the baseball field, you couldn't see it. It wasn't clear cut, Paul, like you said. But to that coach, he said, "Listen, he's just better than you." And it's time that parents start taking accountability back, right? Ty, you talk about these coaches, and how a lot of times their sons or their daughters won't play. Well, I wish that everybody could see how much time goes into it outside of practice of training their kid, because a lot of these coaches want their kids to not only be the best on the team, but stand out so much that it's not even a decision for them. You know what I mean? That they go, he's playing or she's playing because look at the numbers. Our team's better because of that. It's not like that anymore, because you're going to have a Karen or a Kyle that go, no. Little Johnny put in his time. He fundraised at least $100 more than everybody else, and he deserves a spot on this team. That's not how it goes. It doesn't matter how much money you raise. It shouldn't matter how much money you raise. It matters what you can contribute to the team. Whether it's on the bench, whether it's on the floor, whether it's on the dirt, whether it's on the gridiron, it's what can you contribute to your team. And let's face it, we don't have great days every day. So if you're an A1 starter, if you're a starting quarterback for your football team, and you go down with an ACL injury, heaven forbid, you better be the best cheerleader on that sideline for whoever's the number 2. That's where these coaches at the next level are looking to you and saying, what kind of character does that person bring to my team when the chips are down? And we just don't have it anymore, man. Everybody's looking for a scapegoat of why they didn't get something or why they're not the best. Like, go out and work. Go out and outwork your teammates, your opponents, and everything that comes along with it. It's so sad.
It's few and far between, DJ. It really is. It's few and far between that you see a kid, or whether it's a boy or a girl, do something like that. And I mean, I got no problem talking about this because it's close to us, and we've seen it. And he's on the wall down there at YSN. Jake Gehring, had surgery on his arm. He got to play 2 years of high school baseball. Last year was washed out with COVID. This year, because of his arm injury, he's out. That kid is here every day. He is in our cages. He is in the gym talking to kids. Hey, you know what? You need to be doing it like this. He's like another coach out there for us. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of kids might have just packed it in and been like, they're going to come to practice and sit around and not do anything. That kid's been working hard his whole life. There's a reason why he's going to Ohio State. but even as a freshman, you saw this kid was going to be a good leader. And like those kind of kids are sometimes few and far between because, like you said, they're so self-focused on what can I get for myself, what can I do for myself, and why am I not getting that for myself, that everything else falls to the wayside. And when you find a kid like that, you want to have 20 of them, you know, or you want to like say, look, you know, the kid might not want it, but you want to put that kid on a pedestal and be like, look, this right here is what you want to be as a player and as a person, guys. Like, this is what we want. And when you find them, you cherish them. Trust me.
Bottle it up,
you know. But and you hope that everybody else sees that. But unfortunately, and it does start at home. You know, sometimes mom and dad they just pump kids up. No, you know, you're the best kid out there. You know, you're better than those other guys out there. So, and then that kid thinks that, and then that kid has that attitude that, well, I'm better than these guys, and you know, maybe I don't have to try as hard because I think I'm better than them. And then when they don't play, you're like, well, why aren't they playing? And then here comes mom and dad. Little Johnny's better than these guys. Why isn't he out there? And it's like,
and that's the difference. And we talk about it all the time offline. Is like community ball versus travel ball. I mean, just because you play travel ball does not entitle you to a starting position on your high school baseball team or whatever it is, or your community baseball team.
Or if you're playing AAU, you don't deserve to get a starting lineup on the basketball team.
No, because, I mean, AAU and travel basketball, travel baseball, travel any sport helps you, right? But they're looking for dollars a lot of the time, and they've got to fill those. They've got to fill those slots, and sometimes you can see the teams. And this is not a knock on AAU. This is not a knock on travel baseball, but you can see some of these teams that are okay. This team was made just so little Johnny can play. You know what I mean? He can be the starting shortstop. I don't care what it is. We'll raise the funds because nowadays it doesn't take much to have fundraisers. You know what I mean? There's fundraisers every time you blink your eyes or refresh your screen. On social media, there's a fundraiser out there, and listen, for good reason. There's a lot of good things going on out there, but I will say this is, you know, we see it a lot. You know, hey, come cover. You should cover our team. Well, okay, but you know, there's a price to that. Oh no, we're not going to pay anything. Okay,
yeah.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah,
you know, we already do enough fundraiser. That's going to cost. Yeah. You know, so and it's not personal to us. It's just, you know, we have costs that come with it too. And you can either choose to or choose not. But, you know, and I don't want to make all parents out to like they're bad. You know, some parents are phenomenal when it comes to supporting the program, supporting a team, supporting other kids. And it's like the world we talked about earlier. Those parents, those supporters don't get the love because they're not the story, right? It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And unfortunately,
they're not the norm though either. You know what I'm saying? They're outnumbered by the people who are,
but it's the squeaky wheel that is going to get the headlines. It's that person that's got, you know, all parents like this, and they're not. They really aren't. There's great volunteers out there. I'm looking at the average Joe who says, okay, there's no coach for my kid. I'll coach it. I don't know anything about baseball. Perfect example is it's the all-time winningest coach in volleyball history, Dan McKinstry, who was just at Wellsville. He didn't know anything about volleyball when he started. He had to do research. Didn't play volleyball, didn't do any of that. Researched, and now he's the all-time winningest coach. You want to talk about admiration for somebody, that's it. That is a perfect example of it right there. And, you know, and I'm sure there's parents out there that say, well, I never played or I never did hockey. I wouldn't know the first thing about coaching hockey, but I'll tell you what, Cece and Coco strap up the skates. Daddy's going to be learning about hockey real quick, you know, because I want to be able to have conversations at the dinner table. I want to be able to utilize that. But, and this is a hard shift, a hard left, boys. Be ready. Here we go. That being said, my daughter is whipping my ass in the bracket right now, and it is completely driving me insane because I sat there and I was like, I asked her at least 7 times, are you sure you want Abilene Christian over Texas? Yep. Christian over Texas. God help us all, right? What the hell happened this weekend?
Yeah. You like Oral Roberts, right? Over Ohio State? Yeah. Okay. How about over that one? Yeah.
Yes. Over Florida. Over Florida.
I can't believe she got twice. Like, once was maybe, but twice to go.
Syracuse. Twice. I mean, let me tell you something. Abilene Christian wins today, I think it's today. They win today, I'm losing my mind. I mean, but the biggest, and I put this on social media, so some of you probably already know this.
Yeah, they play UCLA at 5:15.
The biggest problem I have is everybody's like, oh, we'll ask her this, ask her. I asked her if who was going to win the World Series. Now, my daughter knows of the teams that I support. She's 3. How much can she know? Apparently a lot. Because I asked her, who's going to win the World Series this year in baseball? Without even blinking, she drops not the Pirates. And that's the exact expression that I gave to her. Just a tongue-in-cheek, huh. Okay.
Like, yeah, all right, kid.
Now, what she doesn't know is that she's getting, her birthday's on Saturday, and we're celebrating on Sunday. What she doesn't know is she's getting a Pirates shirt. So she better learn to support the Pirates. And I guess that's part of it is you got to embrace the suck a little bit. But she's not, if she was in our poll right now, she would be in the top 3.
Yeah.
The top 3. A 3-year-old in the top 3. And not even, she guessed Loyola. She guessed Loyola.
Yep.
She guessed, what was it? Loyola, Syracuse, Abilene Christian, Oral Roberts twice. But she's got Abilene Christian winning the championship. So she'll fall off.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about the championship. It's the first 2 rounds. Yeah.
Did you pick the Bobcats too?
You will.
Yes.
You will be losing your mind if Abilene Christian is your NCAA champion.
I will be. Listen, at this point, I'm rooting for her, right? Because I don't think I can beat her. I have Gonzaga, but that's my only shot. I didn't pick any of those. I picked Cleveland State, and obviously of all the games that was, all these upsets, that was the one that actually turned out the way it was supposed to. They got their ass beat up and down the court. So thanks a lot, Vikings. Lost me $20. But in all seriousness, the madness. I've never seen a bracket so busted across there's no. This might be the earliest there's been no perfect brackets in the history of March Madness.
And they were broke as soon as the Buckeyes lost. That hammered millions of them right off the get.
Yep.
And then Illinois loses, and they're down. I think it's double digits now for brackets that are still pretty good. But
is this the quickest that there was no perfect brackets left? Was that I feel like that was nail and coffin quick. Because I remember, what was it last year? One guy made it all the way to the Sweet 16 with a perfect bracket, and everyone was that was surprising. But I think that's as far as he got, was to the Sweet 16.
A message, it's anonymous. Somebody giving me a heads up on how this is. Varsity for 3 referee game, 2 assistant gets between $45 and $50 each. Center referee gets $60 to $65 for soccer. Varsity, so you're looking at about anywhere between $40 to $70 a game to referee, and that's, to me, you can referee every single night if you're assigned. You know what I mean? If you're in the good graces, and especially with a referee and an official shortage, you can go. You can make some money.
$70 too. For what game was that again? For the 70?
It doesn't necessarily say 70.
Well, I know that
but let's say if it is
soccer officials $65, $70, the middle guy, which is the guy who's going to do the most running. Your basketball officials, varsity, are making 60 to 65.
Listen, we're giving Planet Fitness $10 a month to exercise. These guys are making money to run up and down a field.
Where you're stealing money is volleyball. Volleyball officials make $65. The guy that just stands there and does
$65 too for if you're looking at basketball. How long is the basketball game? How long are you there for? 2 hours, maybe.
No.
You're there 2 hours, maybe, if that. If it goes into overtime, right? It's typically an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, well you got to show up a little early and get changed, and it's
But you're making over $20 an hour for a few hours, so
Yeah.
Not a bad gig, man. Not a bad gig at all for a little extra money.
And listen, it's no different than being from that standpoint. It's no different than being a coach. You're only going to be right 50% of the time. You know what I mean? You're only going to be wrong 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Until you make 2 wrong decisions, 1 for each team, and everybody hates you. But reality is that's part of the gig.
Then it's even.
Yeah, and a lot of these people know. Like, it's not like it's a surprise. Like, that's my biggest thing is officials. I feel worse for coaches than I do for officials because in that sense, you know what you're signing up for to a degree. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but you do as a coach though too. You know you're going to get.
But you sign up in, let's say you sign up in 2000, the year 2000, just for example. If you're a coach for 20 years, you signed up for those 4 years that you were going to have those, and you have success over the course of 20 years. But you're putting up with a lot of attitudes, you know what I mean, and a lot of grief. So I think that the coaches get a little bit more grief than they deserve. I'm not saying that referees should get grief or should get attitude, but my personal opinion, and I was a catcher, and it was my job to protect those umpires back there. There was a lot of jibber jabber about my guys, and I never was one of those guys that said, all right, send a fastball over up high and I'm just going to pull down my glove because that's garbage.
It's disgusting.
But I can also say that it didn't not cross my mind, you know what I mean, because I'm sitting there and when he's talking you hear every word he says. Manager doesn't, pitcher doesn't, your outfielders certainly don't, but you hear every word and you hear, well, if this guy wouldn't have said this, or if this guy wouldn't have said... And listen, there's great umpires, but there's also umpires that are out with an agenda, and officials as well, because somebody did them wrong at some point, or they don't like the way that you wear your pants, or they don't like the way that, this, that, or the other thing. Like, you're getting paid. You are a professional from that standpoint, right? It's a pro job. You are getting paid. Technically, the coaches are too, but the degree is significantly different, and I think that's where my hang up is I will give coaches the benefit of the doubt 99% of the time, but as for referees, you got a job to do your job, and I've seen strike zones go this way. I've seen travels start happening. Holding can be called on every play. Everybody knows that, and all of a sudden, phantom holds start happening. It's one of those things where when you have a little bit of power, you feel like you have to toss it around a little bit. And again, not that we're against referees or officials in any case of the word, but like I'm gonna side with the coaches 99% of the time, unless they do something absolutely stupid, which has happened as well. So, all right, let's get to our G Burberry Farms. What's your beef? What's your fillet? And wrap this baby up. Ty, what do you got?
My beef is with anybody that's not jumping on the baseball train right now for local sports. We got games starting up Saturday. We got all kinds of headed homes coming out on the network right now, so you can kind of get a preview of a majority of both the baseball and the softball teams that we cover in the area. I mean, I know this is a big football state, especially up here in northeastern Ohio, but I mean, you got to look at the baseball teams too. There's a lot of great talented players and a lot of great talented teams that are going to be making some noise this year. So give it a chance and take a look at them.
Love it. Good segue, my friend. And on to the scheduler of all these baseball and softball games, Mr. Paul Munson.
Yeah. I don't have any hair, so there's a good reason for that. Partially some of the scheduling. I have a flake too. It's beautiful outside. We're gonna have a scrimmage here in about a half hour. Baseball is here. I'm excited. We only have another a week before the official start for us which is be next Monday. And then the nice thing is we only play like 3 games, and then we go to the beach. So even more things to be happy about. So.
Wish I could be with you, buddy. I'm gonna miss that certainly this year. So mine is gonna be a filet as well. We're gonna go good across the board. Mine is just spending time yesterday. We watched movies, we watched basketball, we watched John Williams because Cece has now become officially obsessed with the Star Wars theme song. So we did that. But spending time with your loved ones watching basketball, and I also have to do this because Friday was like a dream come true. Having people here at HQ watching basketball on our live stream, people watching us watching basketball. So we're going to make that an annual. I do that a little bit more, but the March basketball tournament, we'll put it in that context, has become my favorite day of the year. And I'm excited. It's a big week at the Yoakley residence. The girls turn 4 on Saturday. We celebrate on Sunday, and I cannot wait to share it with everybody. So thank you so much for tuning in. That's going to do it for today's Power Hour. Join us tomorrow, 3 to 4, right here on YSN. For more up-to-date information, you can always go to ysnlive.com, where you get all your bracket information, including, and most importantly, the March Pizza Madness bracket, because we are in round 2, and voting ends tomorrow night at midnight, so make sure you get out there, because there were big names that fell in the first round because nobody voted for them. So show your support for these awesome establishments. We're getting a lot of good feedback from it, and make sure that your favorite pizza does not, well, I guess favorite cheese doesn't fall off the pizza here in round 2. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow right here on your sports network.